competition, isn't it?
Yes. And that's in every school room.
Yeah, I know.
That's huge. Technology. Is it time? Okay, it is time. I hereby call this meeting to order. I would like to thank tonight's presenters and everyone joining us in person and via Facebook Live. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, Colson Lunsford will lead us in the pledge.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Thank you, Colson. Well done. Well, there's our board member. I was going to say, it was me. I see all of our board members are in attendance with the exception of Jim Facer, who has been excused. There are a couple addendum items, which include additional information on Head Start materials, elementary survey results, and legislative update, dash capital notes. It would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addenda.
I move that we approve the agenda with the addenda.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing all in the positive, that motion is passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented with the
I'll second.
corrections.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion has passed. Next is the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes authorizing the payment of claims, approving the supplemental financial information, and approving the amended human resources activity. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda as explained.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. Next, Courtney Fisher will provide us some March recognitions.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Dr. Howell, Ms. Johnson, and student representatives joining us tonight. Tonight we will be recognizing several individuals who, through their actions, support and embody the district's mission to think more, learn more, and be more together. First up are our Cake Awards. Our district believes a safe, supportive, caring, and respectful environment is critical to student learning. The School District 25 Education Foundation, in partnership with McDonald's, supports the Learner of the Month Award to recognize one elementary learner and one secondary learner from our district from October through May. The Cake Award celebrates positive character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement toward others. In addition to being recognized here at the monthly board meetings, the recipients also receive special treats delivered to their classrooms to be enjoyed with and among their peers. Nominations for the Cake Award are submitted by a teacher who has observed the learner's behavior and are approved by the school's principal. So first up is our Elementary Learner of the Month. Please help me welcome Presley Lunsford and her teacher, Mrs. Katie Burrup, to the podium. Welcome. You can just stand right over here.
Come on up.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Presley is in the 3rd grade at Wilcox Elementary School, and her teacher is Mrs. Katie Burrup. In her nomination letter, Mrs. Burrup wrote, "Presley meets all of the criteria for this award and more. Presley is trustworthy, polite, and very helpful in the classroom. I always know that I can count on her to be a positive role model to her classmates. I see her classmates look to her often to see what my expectations of them currently are. She may be quiet and reserved, but she always has a positive attitude and tries her best on everything. Presley is a great friend to all in my classroom. She will partner up with anybody and works well no matter who she is working with. I have watched her help guide her peers through activities when they need an extra boost to get started or to continue working. Presley also befriends people on the playground. I see her running around with all sorts of different kids. She isn't picky. She is very kind, respectful, and truly helps keep the peace in such crazy times. Presley is a total light in my classroom, and I am proud to be her teacher. I wish everyone had the chance to know her. And I'm so glad we get to know you tonight, so thank you for joining us. So you get this certificate for the cake award, so put that in a special place. And in addition to being recognized here tonight, Presley, we're going to deliver special cupcake-themed treats to your classroom for you sometime this week. You also will receive a $50 gift card to McDonald's. Your teacher will receive that as well. And your school library will receive a $50 donation to purchase books in your name. And you'll get to sign your name in those books and help choose which books go in your library, okay? So please join me in congratulating, and would you please say hello to our board members? And we appreciate you being here tonight. Do you want to walk up there and just go through the line, and you can maybe follow Mrs. Burrow?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Next up is our secondary learner of the month, and so I would like to have you help me welcome Andrew Millward and his teacher, Mr. Matt Alexander, to the podium. Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. Andrew's in the 9th grade at Pocatello High School. In his nomination, Mr. Alexander wrote, "I would like to nominate Andrew Miller for the Cake Award. Andrew is the nicest and most polite person I think I have ever met. Andrew is a constant voice of encouragement in my math class. Anytime a student contributes to our discussion, Andrew is there with a good job or other congratulations. His standard response of thank you so much to anything from a new assignment to feedback to a greeting or farewell never fails to bring a smile to my face. Andrew also takes it upon himself to help his fellow students fully understand a concept. He always makes a point to greet everyone in class and make sure they feel welcome. In this time of stress and frustration with the pandemic and hybrid learning, it is so amazing to have an example of unbridled positivity like Andrew. Thank you for your consideration." So Andrew, you also will receive this gift certificate. And you and Mr. Alexander will receive a gift card from McDonald's, who sponsors this event, and you'll also receive a $50 donation for your library to help choose books in your name. So thank you so much for embodying character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement at Pocatello High School. Thank you for being here, and if you'll say hello to our board members as we congratulate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Alexander was talking you up before you even got here. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Okay, our final award this evening is our Pies Award. The Employee of the Month Pies Award recognizes our employees who positively influence educational success. The award is for employees who go above and beyond in that effort. Lookout Credit Union partners with us in providing this award. Our awardee for March, Employee of the Month, is not able to be here with us tonight. This is included in your addendum in your packet tonight, so I won't read the entire nomination because it's very long, but we will also do a press release. That awardee for the Pies Award for March is Mr. Tom Wilson. And we all know Tom is the food service coordinator for the school district, and he has been instrumental in helping us deliver nutritional services to the learners that we serve. He was nominated by 3 individuals in his department, so I thought that was remarkable. He was nominated by Mrs. Dawn Stone, Miss Heather Canfield, and Miss Tanya Walton. You can read excerpts from those nominations in your board packet. But by and large, Tom has just gone above and beyond in the delivery of food services to the learners from when we had to close down right before spring break and continue to serve those learners. Tom was here every day during spring break, like most of us were, trying to figure out how we were going to address and adapt to some of these challenges. And I just want to applaud the food services department. They have helped us, under Tom's leadership, serve 1.25 million meals, breakfast and lunch, to our learners since last March. So that is just a phenomenal accomplishment and a great service to our community. So we will make sure that we visit with Tom. We are going to take pie to Tom and his team right after spring break. And so we will certainly, once that's calendared, we're working on that schedule right now, we'll let you know, and hopefully that you can join us when we do that. Okay, that concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you very much.
Okay, next on the agenda is the time for public and written comment on topics not pertinent to the agenda. The written comments was received and is included in the packet. I have not received any requests for public comment tonight on topics not pertinent to the agenda, so we'll move forward. Next on the agenda is the student representative reports, and Century High School is first. And Tranner Guchiner. Gokener, sorry.
It's good. All right. Esteemed members of the board, Dr. Howell, members of the community, thank you so much for taking the time to let you know about what's currently going on at our Diamondback home. Since our last update, a lot has changed. With everyone now back 5 days a week, it's a big transition for a lot of students, especially our freshmen. Many say it's like we had our very first day of school in March. This is understandably stressful for some, but our Century Student Council is doing our best to keep spirits high. Like with Century's 5th annual 3-on-3 March Madness tournament. This gets kids up and going and getting their blood flowing to show some school spirit and have fun with other teams in the student body. All proceeds will go to the Pocatello Animal Shelter so we can have fun and do some good at the same time. In the fine arts swing, Century Diamondback Dramatics got to put on the musical All Shook Up the first week of third try. We had an amazing turnout and the most teacher, staff, audience members we've ever had at one of the musicals. Needless to say, it was quite the show. Century Singers is continuing to work with a commission piece just for them, and from being in the tenor section myself, I can tell you it's coming together really well. We all also had many Century Choir students qualify for state solo this year, and we're happy for them to represent such a heart-filled choir program. Then the jazz band has started and without jazz pizzazz this year, our school's jazz-themed dinner party fundraiser that we usually have. Instead, they're planning on having a digitally performed piece this year. Then, in athletics, Century Girls Basketball won second place. We also have track and field season, which just started, and they had their very first meet Friday. Century Varsity Softball just won their first game 5-8, and baseball just got started with their first 2 games on Saturday against Burley. Last try as well, the state championship for wrestling was won by our very own Canyon Mansfield, so congratulations to him and the whole Century team who had 6 wrestlers place on the podium. Century has a lot underway, and we're proud of our whole student body in making such a great effort to continue to push and fight to come to the school during this pandemic. We couldn't do it without our amazing teachers, staff, principals, school board, and everyone else involved in making Century the amazing high school it is. Again, thank you for your time, and best wishes from Century High.
Thank you. Next is Pocatello High School representative. You're going to have to help me.
Yeah, I will. My name's Gracie Baird.
Okay.
So I'm junior. Yep.
Gracie, thank you.
Yes. Okay. So Pocatello High School's student Jason Sindo won the Western District Idaho State Scholastics Chess Tournament. He took first place in the 9th through 12th grade section, and he will now be competing in a state tournament on Saturday, March 20th. The top 2 placers will compete in the National Chess Tournament in Philadelphia this summer. This was Jason's first tournament, and he knocked out his competitors in record time. The chess tournament was conducted virtually. Pocatello High School's Drawing 2 and Painting 2 students participated in the Memorial Project and created 34 portrait prints of Afghanistan high school students. These portraits have been mailed already as gifts of love for a global service project called the Memorial Project. These Afghanistan students were able to receive a portrait of themselves as a reward for staying in school. Too many hardships and unsafe conditions often lead to students dropping out of school in the Middle East. This weekend, Debate competed in their state debate tournament. There are no divisions in the competitions itself, but the team awards are divided by the schools attending into small, medium, and large schools. Pokie was the smallest school in the medium school division. Century is a medium school and Highland is a large. Pokie Debate took first place in medium-sized school division at state debate, second Twin Falls, third Columbia. Pokie took third in policy debate and third in Lincoln Douglas debate. Our cheer team heads to state this Thursday, so good luck to them. Haywire Robotics is finishing this year's robot this week, and we have an impressive shooter that functions with camera tracking. We are also programming the robots to compete in a variety of anonymous challenges. We will be finishing this robot at Franklin Middle School's cafeteria from 6 to 8 p.m. each night. This Saturday, we will be showcasing the robot in a scrimmage at the Red Lion Hotel here in Pocatello. We don't have exact times yet, but the students have a very impressive robot and would love to showcase it to anyone who's able to attend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. As always, you can leave. You can stay. I'd love to have you here all night, but thanks for being here. Okay, and now we have the media report and community relations update. Courtney Fisher.
Hello again. Okay, so for the media and community relations report for March 2021, the following education topics have frequented recent news over the past month. Return to full-time instruction locally and across the region and state has been in the news. Supplemental levies and the recall election, as well as bond and levy elections from all over the state, and reports on the conclusions of those. Kindergarten registration, COVID-19 still dominates the news almost daily, and the news out of the legislative session, including the most recent Jfac and K-12 budget. Links to those articles of interest, there are pages of them, are included in your addendum, and you can look at those at your convenience. We've only had one live stream of the board meeting since we didn't have a work session this month. So the February 16th regular board meeting had 136 views. And over the past 28 days, social media, we have just under 10,300 followers on Facebook. We had almost 4,000 views in the past 28 days. Our total post reach was almost 18,000, and we had 682 video views, which was really good. We have 393 followers on Twitter, 1,114 followers on Instagram, and those continue to grow. Our website analytics were interesting this month. We had 24,000 users and 45,000 sessions. Our user on mobile devices over desktop flip-flopped this month, which I thought was really interesting. It was 51.3% of users accessing via desktop, and normally that tops out on the mobile devices, so that was interesting to me. I'm not sure why. Most frequently visited pages, the top 10, we had 91,889 page views, which continues to be very high, and people accessing our website for information. Home was the top, elementary food services, PHS Home. Our weekly case status report continues to be checked very frequently. Food Service Administration, the boundary maps, HR, Highland Bell schedule, which was interesting. That is a significant because we returned to school 5 days a week in person. And then our back to school page also was in the top 10, and our district links and forms. What was interesting to me about the top 10 is for the first time since August, our coronavirus resource page is not in the top 10 anymore. So, and that makes sense because, we haven't had as many frequent updates to that. Now we're back to school in person 5 days a week, and so that makes sense. Also really excited to introduce to our community our new podcast, which is called More Together with School District 25. We launched our first podcast on February 19th. The purpose of the podcast is really to take a deeper dive into some of the issues, accomplishments, news, and current events happening around our school communities. This is a chance for listeners to get to know the school district and also the people behind the school district and the educational issues that they care the most about. So we have been posting new episodes on Friday. They are currently being hosted on our YouTube channel. This week, tomorrow, we'll be recording our 5th episode, which now qualifies us to move over to some of those podcast streaming sites. And so it will be even more accessible. We'll continue to host it on YouTube, but it will also be, you can search on Spotify or there's a Podbeam. There's a couple of other streaming services that will be available. We are growing our audience. Our first podcast episode was a conversation with Dr. Howell and myself about the supplemental levy and what it means to the school district. That had 177 listens. Really happy about that one. Our episode 2 was a conversation between Tanya Wilkes and myself about mental health and the pandemic, and that had 35 views. Episode 3 was school district financing, kind of 101, conversation with Bart Reed, that had 21. And then our STEM Up, which was last week, talking about our STEM Up program that's happening tomorrow, had 29. It's going to take some time to build this audience, but I feel like as we have issues that we're developing or facing as a school district, it's just a really great way for us to have a more conversational approach to give people some insight into the decision-making behind the scenes. In other news, like I just said, STEM Up is tomorrow night. We're really excited. That's going to be at every School District 25 elementary school across the community from 4 to 6 p.m. tomorrow. It will introduce, it's a drive-through event. Elementary learners will come grab a STEM Up kit, take home to do those activities with their families. They will have instructions to access isu.edu/STEM Up with videos that show them the scientific and other STEM concepts, as well as connect those learners and their families to career pathways. So we're really excited about that. It's been a great community partnership for us. And we want to thank our partners. Look out, Credit Union, you'll see tomorrow lots of STEM Up t-shirts across the district in the elementary schools. Lookout Credit Union sponsored those. ISU College of Technology has been a premier partner. INL helped fund it. School District 25 Education Foundation helped fund it. And United Way of Southeastern Idaho helped pay for some printing. So it really was a great community effort, and we are looking forward to seeing those learners come grab their STEM kits and have lots of fun. College Technology is also donating a drone for every elementary school, so one learner per elementary school will win a drone, courtesy of College Technology.
Good.
Any
Good.
questions? That concludes my report, unless you have any questions for me.
No.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, the committee minutes from various community and administrative committees are included in the packet for the board's information. You saw those, didn't you?
Yep.
Board, yeah, I like that. Been on there. Okay, now we move on to curriculum, instruction, and school safety. Chuck Orr.
Good evening. I wanted to take a few minutes tonight and just let you know that we are in the process of reviewing middle school and high school health textbooks, and we'll bring more information and a recommendation to you next month. The decision to review these materials now was a result of recent discussions surrounding the social and emotional impacts of the pandemic over the last year. Not to mention the copyright of our current health programs are 2007, so it's definitely time for an update. We had presentations for our committee Thursday of last week, and then the plan is to meet with them again on April 6th to make a decision about what we will recommend to you for adoption. All of the programs under consideration do have a human sexuality supplement that we can either choose to adopt or not. Another option that we've kicked around with regard to that supplement is, instead of classroom use, we could purchase a few copies to have it on hand in the counseling offices at each of our middle schools and our high schools. I also have 4 parents who are reviewing the health textbooks as well as the corresponding human sexuality supplements, and I'll provide that information to you for the program that we recommend for adoption. The other item I want to make you aware of is legislation that's being considered in the Idaho legislature. House Bill 249 has passed the House and is now in the Senate Education Committee. If passed, this legislation would require parents to opt in their kids to any instruction having to do with human sexuality. This would include anything outside of basic reproductive human anatomy. Idaho currently has a law allowing parents to opt their children out of instruction. This, however, would require an opt-in provision via permission slips. So I hope to be able to provide you an update on the status of that bill next month when I bring you the recommendation from our committee. Any questions on that item? Okay, item B, you have included in your packet a memo detailing a recommendation for a K-8 math textbook adoption. After extensive review and consideration, I'm happy to report that the committee was able to reach consensus and is recommending for adoption the program Envision Math 2020 by Savas. This will be the first time the district has adopted a kindergarten through 8th grade math program. There are several positives to adopting K-8 instead of K-5 or 6-8 like we've done in the past. And one of those positives is the continuity of instruction from elementary school into middle school. The cost of the adoption is slightly more than $1 million, which is within the amount budgeted. In fact, slightly under budget, what we budgeted in the elementary and the secondary textbook budgets. So it's my recommendation that the board approve the adoption of Envision Math 2020 by Savas later this evening. And unless you have questions, that concludes my report.
The math for 9th through 12th, is that being looked at also?
We utilize, it's an open education resource, meaning it's available online.
Okay.
And you'll recall that we transitioned to an integrated math system about 3 years ago. Those materials are being updated now, so I'm looking at purchasing the new teacher resources for our teachers next year. And then we've been printing in our own print shop back here the modules for our learners, which is far less expensive than purchasing those consumable materials every year. So,
Okay.
okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Lori Craney, a number of items.
Have
Hi, Kathy.
Kathy Osmack here with me. She will share the annual reporting and give you a program update. Kathy.
Hi, good evening. So we'll start with our monthly report. At the end of February, we had 134 students enrolled. The full-day program continues to be fully enrolled at 40. The newest students that came in were in our part-day program at 94. We still have room for 13 more. We had no withdrawals. We do continue to enroll children whenever anyone comes forth. But we are excited that we are already getting inquiries about next year. And so we do what's called the yellow card system. So when families call, we take their contact information so that when we start the applications, we have a fairly good stack of families to contact. So far, those numbers are looking pretty good. Attendance is still fairly high. February was 86.92%. Personnel, we have still the 3 openings, the 1 bus driver and the 2 family advocate positions. I don't think we're going to get those filled this school year. Good news for you. How about that? The good news is that today we received notification that our facility application has passed the Region 10 level review. So, and it is now being sent to the National Office for final approval. So that is good news. Originally, I told Lori March. I'm going to push that back to early April. We'll see. We'll see. With the feds, you never know how quickly they're going to get to things.
So is that the last step?
The next one is the very last step. And what they told me is that the second step, which we just completed, is usually the more thorough review, so it takes a little bit longer. So this next one should go much faster, and then we can start moving forward. Okay. At the regular March 11th, 2021 Policy Council meeting, the council reviewed and approved the submission for the 21-22 continuation grant application. The documents include the self-assessment, 5-year goals and objectives, selection criteria, preliminary program design and approach, preliminary budget, and non-federal share and transportation waivers. And all of those are in your packet for us to then take a look at. Any questions over the monthly board report, though, before I continue? Okay. So we start off our self-assessment process, which we do annually, begins in December. And this year we concluded the end of February. And just to highlight, we look at things that the program is doing well. We look at things that may involve systemic findings. And then we also look at what recommendations we would make. So things that I thought stood out was that the district and the program had developed and implemented a very effective disinfection and cleaning protocols. That really made it so that we could offer the services that we have this year. We implemented a new tool called Teapot, which looks at promoting children's engagement, collaborative teaming, and teachers engaging in supporting conversations. So this is really looking again at how we work with children, and it is related to the class tool that Head Start uses as well, and an area we've been working on and showing progress. We've done a significant amount of training this year in social emotional development, and that is in part because with our last quality improvement funds, we were able to hire a full-time licensed mental health professional, and that has been a wonderful addition to our program. She's been able to provide a lot more support to families and children, especially those struggling with behavioral concerns, which we continue to see an increase in. We also added in a couple of 3 different specialists, but our educational specialist really had her work cut out for her first year. Fortunately, she enjoyed it and plans on coming back, but her job was to make sure we kept our classroom staffed. And even though it felt like we had a lot of people around, there were many times where we did a lot of juggling because of staff having to be out due to the COVID-19 virus. We implemented a book study again this year on conscious discipline. Looking at our staff that we have some very highly qualified staff from besides the mental health to our family advocates, including one who's a licensed social worker, to looking at those staff who start out at the entry level in our classrooms, and we encourage, and in some cases are able to support for them to go on and get their degrees. And we're feeling like it's finally starting to pay off, and we're very excited about that. We currently have 5 teacher assistants who are working on their bachelor's or have been completed them, and now we're hired them as teachers. So it's kind of our grow our own program, because that's always been a challenge to retain teaching staff. So we're excited. We think we'll get some long-term staff in the building. Things that came up as far as findings and recommendations, communication system, things like training, whether it be specific on a curriculum, new staff orientation, database program, continued the need to work on intentionality in classrooms with using the data and planning for effective lessons. For family services, they really took an in-depth look at the data we collect, because we collect a lot, but then what do you do with it? It needs to be meaningful, because many of the questions we ask our families are fairly sensitive questions. So we want to emphasize this coming year more of what we can do then with that data to help what we call grow school readiness families. So we know that the stronger the family can be, the better they will be at getting their children prepared for school and helping them through those early years. So that's kind of one of our focuses. We do still have a challenge in hiring and training, retaining qualified staff. We've got policies that need to be updated, written program plans, and updated technology for staff. So kind of things that we were anticipating. Nothing there came to be a surprise. So that's kind of just the highlights of our self-assessment report. And then what we do with that information leads into our selection criteria, and that is also in your packet. The other thing that we do is we typically have a meeting with various communities in the program that we partner with. Obviously, with the number of partners, we weren't able to have an in-person meeting, but we sent out a survey and had a really good response as to what is happening in the community, especially given the current situation. What types of things have they been seeing? It really surprised us that while there were challenges, they really did not indicate that there was anything that they were not prepared for or had not thought would occur. There weren't any areas that really jumped up or seemed to be a wholly new situation to deal with. So with that, the recommendation was to keep the categories that we have and to keep the point system that we have. So the selection criteria that's in front of you for 2021 is the same that we had for 2020. And as you know, this is used because families to be in our program have to meet age and income eligibility, but then we are charged to serve those families with the greatest need. And the point system allows us to do that, because it's always based on families' needs. Again, there are 3 categories that are automatic high points, and that is for children who are in foster care, children whose families are receiving TANF funds, and children who are classified as homeless. So those children are always some of the first ones that do get into our program. All right, any questions or comments on the selection criteria? Okay. Then we did kind of an update on our 5-year program goals and objectives, and that is also driven by the self-assessment. As far as the goals, we basically have 3. The first one is really looking at staffing issues, and so we want to take a very in-depth look at the staffing needs for our program, the skills levels that the staff need, the job description, the compensations, and all of those things regarding staffing. The second one is looking at the program's written plans for systems. And in particular, we're looking at things like planning, monitoring, training, again, terms that came up in our self-assessment. And then the last one, because it is always a strong area one area that always needs improvement, is strong communication systems. The second goal is looking at data, because we are data-driven. And so we're wanting to do more so in the classroom, looking at the use of the data to create intentional and individualized learning activities for children, data to help families grow, and then also to increase our knowledge and skill in using our database program. Then the last one is a continuation that we've had for a few years on increasing health knowledge for families and children. So we've made a little bit of progress in our goals and objectives, I think because we have not had a more typical school year. We were not able to do everything that we had hoped to do. So some of those things from years 1 and 2, we're continuing on to 3. Any questions there?
I had a question
Yes.
as I was reading through that, and had to do with one of your objectives, which was lesson plans. 100% completed lesson plans by teachers. I know you said later down in there that most of them do this, but I was still somewhat concerned about that completion form with lesson plans, and that they weren't either not complete or not turned in on time, and so, as a teacher myself, that concerned me.
Sorry.
And so I just, can you address that issue a little?
Yeah, so when we look at our lesson plans, the teachers submit them weekly, and we have modified them over the years, so they are pretty detailed. And for some of our newer staff, it takes them a little while to get it all figured out and get them turned in on the time that the supervisor requests them to have in hand. They are ready for when they implement them in the classroom with the kids. But the thing that the supervisor is looking at, not just the timeliness of them, but how, going back to that intentionality, how are you using the data when you're planning your small groups? What are the specific skills that you intend those students to learn in the activity that you have set before them? And then how are you going to track and assess the progress that they're made? So there's a lot involved in the set of lesson plans we use, but we are looking at recognizing that we had some new staff
So
struggle. We want to make sure that they get better, more training.
So it's just a little more a training issue with
Mhm.
staff. And do they do that with technology? Do they submit those?
It's all electronic, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do have a mentor teacher that also works with our new staff, because there's always a lot to learn when you come on board in Head Start.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, so this is the one that a lot of people are always interested, is after we've gone through these pieces, what do we plan to do for the next school year? So our intent, and that's our preliminary program design and approach. So you have where you see our program funding, and this is our federal Head Start dollars, is $2,482,967. That's divided up into program operation, which is the biggest part of the budget. That's what runs the program. And then a very smaller amount for training and technical assistance. So when we look at the budget changes for next year, slight variation from what we have currently, but we know there's going to be an increase in staff salaries, minimally anticipating at least a 1%. Increase in staff like fringe benefits, and what I'm hearing is more likely in health insurance. Increased funding to convert, and this is one of the changes that we are proposing, one of our part-day classrooms to a full-day classroom. So right now we have 4 full-day and they meet 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, and 6 part-day. They meet 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. Based on families' interest, based on the number of people who've been applying for the full day, we recognize that there are more families that are interested, especially families with 4-year-olds, enrolling their children in the full-day option. We can never get everyone in those slots, even by the end of the school year. It's kind of like if you get one of those slots, people hang on to it. And that's been true this year, too. We've had very little turnover in our full-day slots. So we talked about that as a management team and even at Policy Council. And the decision in doing so was to look at making all 5 of the full-day classes then classes for 4-year-old children. So really give them more intentional time that year before they go on to kindergarten. We would still maintain then 5 part-day programs because there are some families that still are interested in just having their children there for a shorter period of time. That applies to some of the 4-year-old families, but mostly our 3-year-olds. For them, the families are like, they're little, they're my babies. And when our experience is when they've gone down for a just little rest period, they're out for the afternoon. So we figured they could sleep at home as easily as they could sleep at school. So we'll still have 3 3-year-old classrooms, but they'll all be part-day. And one of the ways when we look at then to cover the cost of that conversion is through teacher attrition. So last year we had our highest paid teacher retire, and this year our next highest paid teacher is retiring as well. So those funds go quite a long way with making up the difference for then full-day staff, which we'll start off putting it internally in May and doing interviews to see if any current teachers want to move from part-day to full-day, and if not, then we'll go outside of the building. Then the other thing we've been working on for a while, and it's kind of got put to the side, is development of the outdoor learning environment. So we want to continue to enhance our outdoor space for the kids. The other question that people then have, so our enrollment numbers are still the same, 169 children that are federally funded. We still plan on having Head Start classrooms in 4 locations. So you will have 6 of them at Lincoln, 1 at Tyhee, 2 at Wilcox, and 1 at Jefferson. The full-day classrooms, 4 of them will still be at Lincoln, and we are looking at putting the 5th full-day classroom at Tyhee. We are planning to use our buses to transport more children, so we'll still provide transportation for families that need it for the full-day classrooms at Lincoln, and then we're going to try to pick up some of the part-day with one-way transportation. Because that's something that still comes to be a big need for families. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much the same as far as, again, number of days per week, hours per year, days per year for each of the programs. Any questions there? Okay. Then you have your Head Start budget categories. And as I said, we really looked at what our typical spending has been, what preliminary calculations have been made as far as personnel, fringe, travel, is looking at out-of-district travel, equipment, that would be for pieces for the outdoor learning environment, supplies, contractual. Contractual is what we pay to the school district's food service department to help us with the adult meals. And then the all-encompassing other, and your indirect charges, and then your totals. The one thing that you will see is the non-federal share. So we are required to have a match of 20%. And in looking at this, I was looking at, which leads into the waiver. We are still pretty uncertain about what this next year is going to bring. We're hoping we'll be able to continue, operate in a traditional manner, be able to provide consistent services for children and for families. There could be some hiccups along the way, but we also know that our community partners, they're facing the same uncertainties. And so they're not quite sure how quickly they can rebound and come back and do some of the same activities that they've done in the past and provide the same level of non-federal match. So again, in talking with Policy Council, they felt very confident that we could at least meet half of our required, which then is looking at 10% of what is asked from the federal government. And that they thought that was a very reasonable request, and we're hoping we can go well above that, but at least it kind of gives us some breathing room at the beginning. Any questions there? Okay, so that pretty much, goes into that. The first of the two waivers is the non-federal match. And it's, as I said, for those reasons that we just aren't sure what the year is going to bring and how much we'll be able to have others participate and help us provide services. Then the last waiver is the transportation, which means the required monitor on the bus. So this year we've worked even harder to find monitors to help us on the bus because we had to do health screenings of all of our children before they could get on the bus or come into the school. We've had a little bit of success, but not as much success as we would like, so we're going to continue to see what we need to do next year because it's very beneficial, especially with that age group of kids, to have 2 adults on the bus. But should we not be able to, this waiver, which we've had for a number of years, will allow us to continue to operate without. All right, any questions? All right, so this will all go before you later on in the agenda for your consideration for approval.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next, we have the 21st Century After School Program update. The programs are doing well, they're fully staffed, and they're reaching their attendance goals. So a real success story, and I've shared that about every month, is our preschool program that serves the Tendroy Green Acres area. And Kelsey Case has reported there's been nearly 100% attendance nearly every day. So the attendance in that program has been just wonderful. So, well, I think we have maybe something in the works here, maybe to get you over there to look at that program in maybe the near future. So anyway, we're excited about that program. Summer school plans are in the works for 8 days between June 3rd and the 29th. Our students will meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 o'clock until 5 p.m. They're going to enroll 60 students, and they'll use an online enrolling process in order to do that. So we're getting going on that and hoping that that all goes well. In your packet is the Idaho Food Bank Backpack Program. You'll note that 668 backpacks were distributed during the month of February, a little bit down, and we have some schools that, as I was reviewing this, are a little bit down, and we'll be giving them some calls to see, what's going on, and maybe they just have a change in their attendance or whatever, but we'll be monitoring that so that we always want to be sure that we're using those for our very neediest learners.
Will there be extra to go out for the spring break week?
There always is, and they always pick up 2, bags so that they can get extra for that week. Yes, good question. All right. The elementary, in your packet is I distributed a survey to the parents of the online elementary students for the online elementary program, just asking of their interest in the elementary online program for the fall of 2021. And so the survey I sent out on March 5th. It gave them about a week to complete the survey, and we sent it to the kindergarten through the 4th grade parents. So in there you'll see a graph in there, so a pie graph. So there was representation from all of the grade levels, almost almost exactly the same. And what they did say is that 42% of them said that they wanted to return in person in the fall. And as I watched the results come in, and so every day I would look, and that 40% maintained about every day, no matter how many more added. So about 40% wanting to come back to that in person. About a third of them want online. And so 21% said if they checked online, they wanted to go online in the fall and wanted to stay online, then it dropped them down to the next question. And it's like, so how serious are you about going online, with a 1 to a 5? And 21% of the total said that they were very serious. 5% said gave a 4, and 3% gave a 3. So basically 21% of the total that responded were very serious about the online program. And then you'll see there that 20% were uncertain at this time on what they wanted. So that'll guide us as we make some plans for the future there. Questions on that?
Well, your registration count was really low.
Mm-hmm.
What do you count for that? I mean, it was like about 200 low.
Oh, you mean the ones that we have enrolled right now?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about kindergarten registration?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I jumped ahead, I guess.
all right. Well,
Yes.
so on the kindergarten registration, it's like, my goodness, I have the food back? Here we go. Sorry. Got too many charts here. So I told Doug that, Dr. Howell, I said, so last year, so this is March 12th. This was taken last Friday. These other numbers were taken on April 5th last year. So I said that, basically we had 0 enrolled last year at this time. So that's what I'm hoping that is contributing to how low it is. We started it online. We are not running, typically we've had them go to the schools and on a day in April, and then continue the registration process. And that's where the rest of these numbers from 08-09 to 2021 were captured in March, or in April, after they did that online, after they completed the online and went to the schools to finalize their registration. So we're going to do some more pushes to see if we can get more students, so we can get a better count. These are just different times and so with not being able to go to school and having all the parents go to school, bring their children into the school, we usually welcome them in there. We give them, a packet and all. Then, it's just like, how do we approach this? So we started our online process earlier this year. So we kicked it off early in March, and then, we're just seeing how many that we can get. And then we had principals together today, and we were talking, we don't know what a couple months is going to bring, and so it's like, do we need to do another push, in our buildings, maybe after school, and that might be in May that we do that in order to get a better count. So
So you will have them come to the school?
we may have them. We'll have to see what will happen. Right now, we're directing people as they register online. We're saying you will complete this registration on August 5th. That's what we're saying right now,
Okay.
just because our schools are really not open for,
Yeah.
people to be coming. But if we need to do something, even an evening type of thing, or a drive-through kind of thing, or something like that, we'll have to think creatively. But we're hoping a couple more pushes here with sending out messages and, blasting the media, that we can get these numbers up.
It's not unusual, though, to have a low count. It's not unusual to have a low count at this time, though, is it?
Well, typically we don't even do any, we don't even open, last year we didn't even open
Right.
the registration until after spring break.
Right.
So, and then it just,
Right.
So it's just maybe the timing. of-
I'm thinking it's really early for us to be gathering that, that data, but it's just, because we're having to think in new and different ways on how to get these accurate numbers. And anyway, we're trying to get them in. If you have any great ideas for it, let me know. We're open. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good evening.
Sue Pettit.
So I have a couple of things. One, we have some early graduation applications. They actually finished the end of second try and were late getting their paperwork in for our board meeting. And so if you could approve those. And then we have some proposed camp requests, 3 volleyball skills clinics and a youth baseball clinic. You have 3 volleyball because they do it once a month, and they thought they needed to send in 3 different ones, and so that's why those are there. Questions? Okay, that's the end of mine.
No,
That was fast.
that's pretty easy. Business operations. Art Reed. What do you have for us today?
Thank you, Chairman Mattson, and members of the board, and Superintendent Howell. I have some good news for you today. So our Idaho General Fund Revenue Report had an excellent month in February. In reality, they overachieved, received twice as much money as what they had budgeted, and that is now the 8th straight consecutive month that our revenue projections have been exceeding budget. So for the year to date, they're $209 million ahead of their adjusted budget, which is 8%. But I think even more strikingly important is that if you compare that to last year, they're $418 million ahead of last year's economic revenues, which is amazing when you consider our last year that we've had. So I'm sure that that information will sit well with our legislature, who is in the final weeks of trying to get things wound up for the fiscal year coming up. Item B is just the regular report that you receive on our free and reduced eligibility percentages, and of course those have not changed because we have not received any new applications. However, there is one bit of information that I would like you to be aware of. So when we first went into COVID, we were doing free and reduced meals, and then they changed that to free, and they extended that to June. That extension has now been moved ahead another 3 months to September 30th of this year. So we'll be through the summer program and into the first month or so of our new school year with free meals, and we'll see where we go beyond that. So there has been a 3-month extension to to September 30th now.
So they'll do our summer meal program for free?
Correct. And we'll continue the feed in our parks as we normally have. We are looking at going to try to serve from the park rather than from the vehicles. If we can do that, then they can decide whether they want to stay there or they can come or go. But the normal program is that they have to remain and eat in the park, but that was an exception this past summer. All right, item C, which is just an information piece for you on our student ridership. In February, we had a fairly low number, 2,628, and that's down from the previous February, if you will, of 4,212. Part of the reason for that is that at the secondary level, both middle school and high schools, we were only going 2 days a week in person and then 3 days online. So I'm sure that number will change going forward, but we are transporting less students during this time of COVID than we have in the past, just so that you know. Item D in your packet is a number of bids. We've been very busy kind of early on this year just because we don't know what the market will be like and ordering materials and those sorts of things. The first one is for stadium bleachers and lights at Hawthorne Middle School, and this is part of the Outdoor Facility Committee recommendations that was approved by the board. We had one contractor, M&S Development, who bid on this project for a total of $631,510. That is slightly over our budget estimate, but we, as you will see as I go through the packet, we will have adequate budget to be able to cover that. We have worked with M&S Construction. They are the ones who actually did the bleachers at Century and the lighting at Century as well, just by way of information to you. The next one is for boiler replacement at Pocatello High School. We had 2 vendors who bid on these projects and on this equipment. Bingham Mechanical was the low bidder at $218,000, and that was about $73,000 under our budget. One of the reasons for that was we initially thought that we would need 3 boilers, but with the efficiency of boilers now, we were able to do that with 2 boilers, so that's why we're as far under budget there as what we are. The next one is for school bus bid, and this was for 6 new 77 passenger conventional school buses and 1 54 passenger bus. We had 3 busing vendors who bid on these buses, and Western Mountain Bus Sales was the lowest bidder on all those buses. And so we are recommending that the board approve the contract to Western Mountain Bus Sales in the amount of $644,262. And that was very close to our budget estimate, within $3,400. The last 2 are our carpet and tile bids. First, the carpet and cove base. We have 2 of our local vendors who bid, and that's typically what happens. And Carpets Bless was the low bid on the carpet in the amount of $110,412.68, and you can see that was within $9,000 of the other bid. And the VCT tile and cove base, they just swapped, I guess. Went to wall-to-wall carpeting in the amount of $55,512, and we would recommend that the board approve the bid awards to those 2 carpet and tile vendors. It's nice to actually have that package split up, because we'll be working with 2 vendors that can do it simultaneously with the workforce that they have, and we get the projects done a little bit quicker. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Employee Services, Carl Smart.
All right, my typical 3 items on the agenda tonight. So just give you a little update on the Infinite Campus and everything technology and IC. We are in the middle of our March IC submission. We started out last week with 1,100 plus errors, and today we're down to 72. So as we transition to a new trimester, we always get new errors. So that's where we're at. We're in a new trimester, and so we have to go and clean that data up every try. So typical for a try change. In the way of technology, I know Kevin's been working on E-rate, getting that put to bed for another year. And we changed vendors with some of our our services. It's added a little bit of complexity to our E-rate filing this year, but he assures us that it's all taken care of. So that's one thing it's a nice thing to have out of the way. And I know that meaning technology, along with many others, are prepping on trying to figure out what the best way to roll out our Chromebooks for next year. We have a number of them that are aging out, so they're retiring. And I don't know if any of you have been through the warehouse to see that stack of Chromebooks that were back there, pallets of them, and how to roll those out to students for next year. So they're working through that and trying to buy the best covers that they can for them, and so they're working through that.
Carl, I had a question about Chromebooks, and I don't know. I think it was addressed in the technology committee letter, in fact. That doesn't come under you, but I'm hoping you can answer it. And it was about the damage to Chromebooks and how they're addressing that
and that is actually part of the discussion they're having as they roll this out, and they are creating a document that will go to parents every year for them to sign and let them know that there are going to be charges for damages.
Okay, because I found that letter pretty interesting of just how they're going to figure.
Yeah, and so that's all part of this discussion.
Okay.
And I know Sue Pettit was working on a document that is gonna go to parents. And so it'll have a list of damages and what the cost might be, like a screen might be $40 or $50 or something like that. And I know they're looking even at some sort of, we can't insure, but they're looking at maybe finding an entity that can maybe provide an insurance policy for damages. That's not gonna say that they're gonna have free reign to go out and break everything and just because the insurance is gonna pay for it, but anyway, we're looking at several things to try to determine, minimize damage and make sure that we get some reimbursement if it was damaged intentionally and that sort of thing.
Another thing that we're trying to do, sorry, Mrs. Crainer, is because we purchased Chromebooks from different vendors and they're different manufacturers, we were looking at cases as well to provide that additional protection. And so with kind of a variety of Chromebooks, it was more difficult to do that when you're talking about that volume. So in this next round, as we buy a uniform or more of a standard Chromebook, then we can also buy a covering to help ensure some of the protection. So that's something we're looking at with some of our ESSER monies to do that with our Chromebooks, the new purchase.
Oh, sorry.
No, they did say some were real repeat offenders,
Oh, yeah, there's gonna be some of those,
so.
some folks that like to just be damaging. But as Superintendent Howell mentioned, there are cases, they've looked at a number of cases last week. I know Stewart from Irving took a bunch of them and was gonna shove them into lockers and see if they fit and that sort of thing, so. So anyway, we're looking at some options.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Item B, student enrollment. You have the student enrollment information in your packet. Nothing's really changed over the last several weeks. We're still down from where we were a year ago. We've had several opportunities to discuss what do we do for next year. That's kind of in reality, it is the $1 million question. And so we'll be watching the kindergarten registration fairly carefully or closely to see kind of where that goes. And we are anticipating more students next year, but how many is a big question. So, but kind of on that same thing, we have. I think we're to a point where we're getting some more information from the state, so the student enrollment we have now will be generating the data for our budget for this current year. We're still trying to get through all that, so we'll bring more information to you. We thought maybe this month, but it'll probably be April.
It didn't look though like a lot of them had gone to charter schools. That's that hasn't changed radically, so.
And they could be on online schools that are statewide. No, we don't get that information from our local charter schools. And last thing on my part of the agenda tonight is of course the wellness dashboard. And Mr. Mattson, you'll recognize the 79% is a good number.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's a good number.
What is it for the year?
Oh. She told me that, and I have already forgotten what it was.
Less than 100.
It's less than 100. It's somewhere between 85 and 86%, if I remember correctly.
So we got 3 more months to.
And I know Pacific Source is waiting for March's or February's, which is February's what we just shared. And they were going to maybe look at March. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that to see if it's going to be beneficial for our renewal.
There's a legislator who's trying to bring together insurance people. So
Can I have you speak into your mic?
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, the mask and then.
James Ruckty was talking about a legislator. I don't remember his name.
He's from up in the Rexburg area, if I remember right.
Yeah, Representative Furness.
But trying to find a way so that the state can work on a package, across the state rather than just individual districts. Is that going anywhere?
I know it's a bill number.
Yeah, I can comment on that, Mrs. Gephardt. So it's House Bill 248, State Insurance Fund. It was held in Senate Ed, so essentially it's done for the year.
For this year. Oh.
Yeah.
Just to give you a little back, we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but, because apparently it's dead. But, the state provides their state employees a benefit package. And, for those people who have family members up to ISU, it's very evident that it's very different from our plan. I don't want to call it better, because that's kind of puts ours, in a bad light. But, the benefits are better. And so we hear this all the time, and so this is an opportunity for school districts to get in on that state plan. However, the state plan per employee per month is quite a bit more than what we're paying for ours. And so it would come at a cost, and that cost, from what I read in that legislation, would come right off of our apportionment from the state. And so it's good, and it'd be nice to have it, but at what cost?
It's going to cost less.
Yeah, at what cost?
Yeah.
And that's what I never did have a good feel for what that might have been, but I do know per employee per month, the state does pay more for medical insurance than we do. But it also would be an opportunity for us to offer that insurance to families at a much more reasonable cost as well. So it has pluses, but the big one would probably be the cost. And of course, we will have our renewal here probably after spring break with Pacific Source. And so we will kind of keep you in the loop on that. Just to let you know, we did finish up our COVID clinics as well last month. I don't know how many of you were able to come up on the 26th and get that final shot. But we did, over the 4 clinics and the duplicate after the fact, we did have 800 people participate. And so I'm just guessing here, but by virtue of our clinics and the fact that many of our employees sought out immunizations from other sources, I'm going to guess that we probably had at least half of, maybe 55 to 60% of our staff get immunizations for COVID. So that's the good news. So with that concludes my report, unless you have further questions or comments tonight.
No. Thank you, Carl. Okay, Brenda Minor, Human Relations.
I missed you last month.
Yeah, I mentioned it.
Good evening.
Human Relations.
I have to tell you that this is my favorite part of my job, this part of this year, where I get to talk about, first of all, I'm thrilled it's something other than COVID, right? That's the first for me this year. But the other great part is I get to talk about hiring and getting to bring in new faces and new people into Pocatello Chubbuck School District and let them know what I believe for the past 29 years, that the best school district that you could be a part of. And I just think that that is such a neat thing to be able to share with them, all of the experiences and all the things that we have happening here in our district. I had that first opportunity to meet some new people in a couple job fairs that I've already done. And they were virtual job fairs, so that was kind of interesting. Because of COVID last year, I didn't know that there was any difference because I wasn't able to go and do the ones in face-to-face, right? And so this year, for the virtual ones, it was kind of nice because it was a captive audience. Instead of just people walking by and picking up what you had to offer. Instead, it was kind of nice because you had one-on-one sessions with them through a program called Handshake. So you could do one-on-one sessions for 10 minutes, or you could also do a group session, and you could have upwards of, in one of our sessions through ISU, we had 16 people. So I did one session with BYU, kind of a combination, and then the other one was through ISU. And so there were so many great candidates out there and so many excited people ready to be teachers, and I just remember that feeling. And so it was really exciting to have that opportunity. When I look at what we have available and where we are with our staffing, so far as of today, we have 28 people who are either retiring or have turned in their letters of resignation. And It's a little bit lower than we're used to, but I really believe that that'll start happening. I have to keep telling myself, it's just March, and so that we'll start to have more of those. In fact, just today, for a matter of fact, I received 3. So they're starting to come in, and I have sent out reminders and those types of things for principals to remind their staff. That being said, we have 1 Head Start teacher opening, 7 elementary openings, 3 special education openings, 1 school psychologist, 2 speech language pathologists, an ESL teacher, 5 middle school openings, and 3 high school openings. We've already filled. What starts to happen is internal candidates start to move around, if they want to change their placement, and so we do internal candidates first. They have the opportunity for the first 5 days that a job is open to apply, and then a school will interview those in-district transfers, and then they'll do external after that. So we've started having a little bit of that movement start, and we've had 4 hires so far. And so that's kind of exciting that we've filled 4 positions between our middle school and high school. We've also had many meetings talking about staffing, and so we'll be looking at where our elementary openings are and where we'll be able to open those here within the next couple weeks. That being said, when I think about hiring and I think about all of these positions, it's kind of a crazy time to think that it was a year ago today that we, closed down, and it's been a year and we still have so many people who want to be a part and want to be a teacher during even all the difficult challenges that face our teachers. So real commendable to all of our teachers and what they've done this past year. On a different hiring note, Doug Howell is going to update you on the Director of Business.
Thank you, Mrs. Miner. So, as you are all well aware, Mr. Reed will be leaving us at the end of June, or July, in July. And so we have conducted interviews for Director of Business, and I'm happy to announce to you that is Mr. Jonathan Balls. And I'm going to let Jonathan come up and just tell you a little bit about himself. You are familiar with Mr. Balls as being part of Soda Springs leadership team. And from time to time, as we have opportunity to be at ISBA convention and Day on the Hill, we interact with various other districts, and Soda Springs is close colleagues of ours. And so you've met Jonathan before, and I'll just let him tell you a little bit about himself and this opportunity. And yeah, so go ahead, Jonathan, come on up, please.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and I am very thankful for this opportunity to work for the Pocatello Chubbuck School District. As you know, I've came from Soda Springs School District. I was there for 9 years and had a great experience, great training. Obviously, a little bit smaller school district, but that allowed me to get my hands in almost everything, even the Head Start presentation. I knew what Kathy was referring to, because we had a Head Start there the first couple of years I was there. So graduated from Idaho State University, 21 years ago in accounting, computer information systems. My wife as well in elementary education. And so we spent five years here in Soda Springs, in Pocatello. Worked for Idaho Central in the computer department, and then we did move back and raised our kids in Soda Springs. And we still have one left at home, and she'll be a senior next year. And so it was a good opportunity to apply and come. We're excited to be back in Pocatello. I will say, even despite being a hometown of Soda Springs, my wife does enjoy living here in Pocatello more, and so she was very on board with this move. So I'm just excited, and I don't know if I mentioned, 5 kids, and they're scattered in 4 different states, and so we're just at that time of our lives that we're excited for this new adventure. Any other thoughts, comments, questions for me?
You kind of look a little alike.
I was noticing that. Yeah, that's I do have a goatee underneath this, so once we get.
I told Chuck Orr, I said, we should have dressed in the exact same pants.
We probably do have the same attire in the closet, so. Yeah, I'm excited to learn from Bart, and I'm of course finding my replacement and training them in Silver Springs, so it's kind of a domino effect, but I'm available. I have vacation days, and we'll definitely be up here well before Mr. Reed officially retires.
Well, we have loved Mr. Reed, and he will be a great mentor.
Absolutely.
To you, and hope you'll be here for a long time.
That is the plan. So
I'm just worrying about you said daughter, right?
Right.
it is my daughter, and I will. Right now, she is planning on staying in Soda Springs. We have still family there, but then I do have a very athletic father-in-law who touted some of the sports teams, especially at Century High Schools. He loves volleyball and basketball, and so he's trying to get her to come to Century, but we will see there. And I don't even know where we're going to live, so I don't know if that's a possibility, but yes, there is boundaries. I know that. So
It's hard your senior year. That's all.
correct. Initially, it will be she'll stay there, but we have consulted with her throughout this whole process, and she's on board there. So.
We look forward to having you, John.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to get to know you better, and excited to work for Pocatello Chubbuck School District.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
All right, great, thank you.
What more do you have for us?
Well, go ahead, Mrs. Minor.
Oh, you're not done.
No, I'm done, unless you had any questions about hiring.
No.
Any questions for me?
No, but you're feeling good about it.
Okay, I'm feeling great, and we have great candidates, and I think it's going to be wonderful.
You sound like it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, let's see, what do I have first tonight? Board calendar. So you can see District Curriculum Committee is coming up on March 19th. I thought that was interesting that Mr. Orr has a committee meeting on the last day before spring break, but hey, it'll be well attended. It'll be all
I'll be
right.
there.
Good. And then we do have spring break coming up next week. Potentially hearings on March 31st. I think there are some other hearing or DDRC hearings tomorrow. So I'm not sure what the outcome will be, but we will make sure we follow up with you.
You think there is going to be one then?
There is.
There's DDRCs. I don't know if that will have an actual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we will follow up with you after tomorrow.
Yeah,
We'll know more.
Put it on my calendar.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, we sure will. And then Ed Foundation is coming up on April 8th, the 13th. We have a board work session scheduled for you. I believe we already have some items, so no cancellations this month. All right. Again, we were able to work those into tonight and then save one, so that's why we have the cancellation this month. And then again, out to the 14th, student disciplinary potentially, and then out a little bit further to April 20th brings us back to regular board meeting.
Okay.
We haven't been doing key communicators, have we? Because
No, we would not had it this year. Courtney's just been notifying them of various items of importance through her emails. Mhm.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, and I just didn't know if we were going to.
Yes, but nothing in person this year. Okay, and then legislative update, a few of those things have already been shared with you throughout the meeting. Happy to report that funding for full-day kindergarten, House Bill 331, is looking somewhat promising this year, I'll say. There was supposed to be a hearing on Monday, but apparently Representative Clow has coronavirus, is what was reported. And so they were saying perhaps Thursday or Friday, they'll pick that up again. There was anticipated that it might be heard today, but as I looked through some highlights on that through Idaho Ed News, they didn't even pick up the topic at all today. So I'm thinking the end of the week.
One of the things that's positive impressive about that is that some of the people who are really supporting it are like the business community and some of those kinds of things, which is a good thing, because in the past, it's only been pushed aside.
Yes. And happy to report, too, that early education, as you know, I think they received a lot of feedback on that initial vote. So it's my understanding that there's a rewrite coming from Jfac on that one.
Oh, good.
So,
6 million is not being.
yes, it might come back around. The House Bill 294 on vouchers, Strong Families, Strong Student Scholarship Program, it passed on the House floor, and so it's going to Senate Ed Committee. I have not heard, I think that might come around this week, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Reimbursement to parents of school is not in person full-time. As ISBA reported, it's weird news under that topic. Yes, so that was killed in Senate Ed yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was today that they killed it this morning, but I don't know.
Yeah. And then guns in schools, it is being heard in Senate State Affairs. As you know, Senator Guthrie sits on that committee, and I emailed him yesterday on behalf of the district and the board and just said we were not in favor because it took away the local control. And he actually wrote back and said he was in agreement with that.
Okay. I emailed him today too about these bills, and then it came back that none of my emails went through for some, who knows what reason.
Okay, we'll have to see if we can get that cleared up for you tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I have his address. It just,
Change
it's
that.
the one I got from ISBA just the other day.
Okay.
I don't know.
It sometimes is the ether.
Yeah, I don't know, but it didn't go.
Yes, right. House Bill 281, a no mask mandate. And so that passed the House State Affairs, and it will go to the House for a vote. That essentially you can't mandate masks. That's what that one's all about.
You know, which seems so crazy to me.
It does.
Look at hospitals.
Uh-huh.
They can't mandate mask wearing.
I think hospitals were an exception.
I think
I think they can.
Yeah, I think there were 2 exceptions, what I remember, but that was one of 2. I can't remember the other one.
I don't know.
Just keeping each other safe.
Right.
Well, if you look at that,
I mentioned state insurance fund earlier. House Bill 249 is the opt-in sex education, and Mr. Orr talked to you a little bit about that. There's a hearing scheduled for tomorrow in Senate Ed on that one. Let's see.
I looked at those things as much as I can read those little blips in the,
Oh,
you know, who's voting.
how the voting goes? Uh-huh.
We don't have anybody here that represents our perspective.
I think Representative Ruckty and
But Manwaring and, you know.
Andrus and Armstrong.
yeah, yes, Representative Manwaring has been helpful on some, I think. Yeah.
I couldn't find his one vote. I didn't find his one vote, but I saw
Yeah.
the others.
So I think in regards to education, we're yeah. So the lotteries, as was, I don't recall if we touched on this. I think Mrs. Fisher did. And so it was House State Affairs took it out 10-4 vote, and essentially that's $14 million for school districts. And so there's a potential rewrite coming on that, is what I understand. And I think those are the highlights that I had for you tonight.
Okay.
I'll be glad when the crazy school.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you know what? I am going to ask Mr. Reed to come up and just share a little bit about what we know from Jfac Budget on Friday that was approved, and will go to the House and Senate eventually. So he's just going to highlight a couple of those items for you.
I thought maybe you changed your mind.
Nope,
for a
I
minute there.
hadn't. I almost forgot to.
Well, as you know, it's been somewhat of an interesting year with the legislature. One of the things that normally JFAC never deals with is touching the present year budget. But there were some supplemental actions in this current fiscal year that they had to take care of. One of those was they approved $104 million of the ESSER 2 funds. You'll remember that that's the $8.6 million that we have yet to receive, but will receive, that we know that that is the amount that we'll be able to spend on this ESSER 2 funds. So they did approve that, and so I'm sure that we'll see that coming forth here in the next month or so. They also approved a $10 million one-time COVID-19 relief fund for learning loss, and that's something in the coming months and year that I'm sure on the administrative side and instructional side that we'll be hearing a little bit more of how do we help remedy some of the deficiency with the learning that may have taken place over the last year.
That will help with like summer school for kids who are trying to make up.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Mrs. Craney and I visited about that a little bit more in detail this morning, and we'll be pulling Mrs. Pettit into it. We already offered the summer school for secondary, and so it's what enhanced opportunities we may be able to do there. But elementary, and she also had an elementary principal meeting this morning as well, and so has introduced the idea, and we're going to start rolling forward with it over the next couple weeks. So we'll have something hopefully to share with you, maybe by work session in April.
Okay.
Just a couple of other things. Obviously, you're aware that they adjusted the career ladder. They did allow movement. And in addition to that movement, they also approved the leadership premiums and also an increase for classified and administrative staff. The offset to that was that they decreased the discretionary or the operational funding by the tune of about $6,000 per unit. So we went from nearly $29,000 a unit down to just about $23,000 per unit. So that was the revenue neutral act to make all of that balance overall. The good news, however, is that in fiscal year 22, which is next year, Jfac did restore that reduction to the discretionary funding. In fact, one of the conversations that Superintendent Howell and I had earlier was, are they going to restore it to just the same amount as what we have this year, or are they going to add anything to it? And actually, they added just a little over $600 to that. They restored it, plus added another $600 and some odd dollars. So that will mean about another $400,000 for our district to go for operational costs. So that was a good thing there. The other good thing was that Jfac approved Governor Little's budget, which was more than State Superintendent Ybarra's budget. So everything is looking very positive to next year, and we'll see when everything gets fleshed out in regard to the ESSER funds, how we can utilize those funds, what kind of restrictions we may have, et cetera. But in the overall budget, one of the things that they have done is they have reduced things like professional development, technology, IT staffing, and
Professional development.
Professional development. I knew there was one, I couldn't remember which one I forgot. With the anticipation that districts will replace those reductions with the ESSER federal funds. So that's what we'll be working through as we get into the budgeting process and try to present a balanced budget to you later in the year. Okay, any questions or? Thank you.
Well, and the levy passed.
Yes, it did.
Okay, are you done, Superintendent?
All finished.
You're
Thank
done?
you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The next on the agenda is the public written comment pertinent to agenda action items, and I have not received any requests, so we'll move on. Action items. The first item is the business is to adopt the K-8 math textbook, Envision Math by Savas.
I move
Is there?
adopt the K-8 math textbook, Envision Math.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the Head Start continuation grant application.
I move we approve the Head Start continuation grant application.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing all in the positive, that motion is passed. The next item is to approve the Head Start bus monitor transportation waiver. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that board approve the Head Start bus monitor waiver as presented.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing all in the positive again, that motion is passed. Next item is to approve the Head Start non-federal share waiver. Is there a motion?
Oh, I move that we approve the Head Start non-federal share waiver.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion has passed. The next item is to approve the early graduation requests.
I move we approve the early graduation request.
I'll second it.
Okay, don't need to discuss that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing all in the positive, that motion is passed. The next item is to approve the camp requests. Is there a motion?
I move the board approve the camp request as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Didn't hear them all. Okay, none opposed, so that motion is passed. And then the final item is to award the following bids. Bleachers and lighting, that's for Hawthorne, boiler for Pocatello High School, and buses, carpeting, and VCT tile. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve those 5 bid requests.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing all and positive, that motion is passed. This concludes this meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion is passed, and we are adjourned.